Hey everybody, it's Mike from Roxbox90 coming back to you with another Double Masters video. This one I was planning to get out last week, but I realized that this is a weird product, and whereas Ultimate Masters had some pretty consistent trends at release day, I wanted to see if some of that was going on with Double Masters. So now that we've had a couple days since release, let's take a look and see how things are going. I am not a financial expert, I say this every video. This is my financial speculation. I always recommend taking a look at other smarter people than I, their deep dives on the sets, because they give you a good sense of the averages which you're working with, and that's the truth. When you're dealing with buying product itself, you are dealing with averages, and so you should have a sense of what the expected value of the set is going to be before you go and shell out your hard-earned dollars on sealed. Now, of course, if you want to draft, go for it. But the general best practice is not to be one of those who open the box. Don't open the box if you're planning to do it to get cards. The goal, if you want to put your money and get cards, is to get the actual cards and get them at the best price you can. Typically, when you have a product come out, there's an understanding that over time, more product is open and thus the price point falls because supply in the market rises. The difficulty with Masters products in general is that Masters products are A, limited in terms of how much the print run is compared to a more standardized product. Yes, I think Wizards will have more than one run of Double Masters, and they are allowed to do that within their own rules of how Masters works. UMA had this, for example, as well. So they'll probably do another run if the set does well, and also just to secure the fact that the first run with COVID and everything else going on, how much product they're printing, allocation was cut, and there was all kinds of issues in terms of the regular boxes, not so much the VIP, but the regular ones. So keep that in mind in terms of our initial look here. So what do we see from UMA? The first day or two that it actually released, there was a mass sale of product where people who had opened up tons of boxes quickly want to move and sell first to get the highest price points, and then it would undercut. It was all like race to the bottom, and the market crashed, so to speak, over the next few days, where into the first week you saw a lot of prices start to fall. However, this was not true for staples. Staples held value and actually started to increase. The best time to have bought the staples in the shorter term of the set coming out was essentially release day. If you waited even a few more days later than that, most of the staples started to climb up. So one thing we're seeing the allocation hit in terms of the regular boxes versus the VIP boxes, because the regular boxes have the non-foil box toppers and the VIP editions have the foil box toppers. For the most part, almost across the board, not completely, but almost across the board, the non-foil prices are actually on par, if not more expensive than the VIP edition, because it comes down to allocation. Both sets, you get 2 box toppers. And that means that they should, theoretically, have the same amount in market. Foils are more sought after. VIP sounds like there should be less product of it compared to the regular box. But the fact of the matter is it's not true, which is why the non-foils are actually holding their own and doing better, because there just aren't as many boxes out there. Will there be in the next month or 2 months as Wizards tries to offset allocation and figure things out, and as more boxes are shipped and opened? Yes, there probably will be a stabilizing point where some of the foils maybe start to come forward. But this is a pretty unique situation where foils and non-foils are on par, with non-foils sometimes higher. It's a bit frustrating for me because I wanted to get the non-foils. But I still think overall a lot of the box topper prices are actually pretty reasonable and within reach in terms of a full art foil or even non-foil full art card for some of these amazing staples. I think they're quite within reach. For example, Stoneforge Mystic at this point, the regular copies could cost you anywhere from $25 to $45, and the box toppers are actually pretty much in range. So if you like that art, if you want to go for it, then I wouldn't say wait. I wouldn't say hold off another month. I'm definitely trying to pick up at least one of the box toppers I want for Commander for the most part. I'm trying to pick them up in the next week or so if I can, because these prices are not going to drop. They're not going to drop way down. There's just not enough product that's going to be coming out, even that hasn't shipped yet. It's not going to be enough to offset the box topper count. What about the regular cards, you're going to ask me? And that's a fair question. The regular cards are a little bit different. I think because we have the extended and alternate arts with the box toppers, and I think because multi-format staples, that a lot of the multi-format staples, if you look for the basic edition, you just want the card to play, which is a lot of players, and myself included. You just want the card to play. You're going to see even the multi-format staples fall off a cliff and be at their lowest price points for the next while. Could we get hit with a double printing with Commander Legends and the Double Masters coming out back to back, the way we have for Manicrypt in Mystery Boosters and now again Double Masters? Sure, you can. I wouldn't make a buying decision that way. I wouldn't decide, hey, Double Masters prices are actually reasonable for what the card is supposed to be. They're actually 30 to 50% lower than what they've been for a very long time. I wouldn't say, I'm going to wait till Commander Legends. And so, for example, there's a number of cards here that I'm looking to pick up just to have for my own Commander play that I just haven't had because I've been waiting for a reprint. For example, probably the one that stood out to me the most was Skitter, the Blight Dragon. This is the second print run. It's an Infect card, very hard to reprint anywhere, and certainly almost definitely not going to be in a Commander cube style format with Infect. It's such a bad experience in general to have Infect in Commander. My playgroup actually we make 20 poison counters as the kill point rather than 10, because 10 is just obnoxiously low in a multiplayer format this way. And a lot of the Voltron decks can be, with Skitterix particularly, can be super powerful. But because I don't see them printing Skitterix again for quite a while. Same thing with Blightsteel Colossus. We've been waiting forever. I don't even know where he is on this list, but we have been waiting a long time to get a reprint of Blightsteel. I don't see him falling off a cliff either, but it's another case of a card that's been in low supply, high demand, and has only had functionally one printing and is very hard to print. They're not going to be probably multiple back-to-back sets that have these cards. So those are the ones I would look at most. I would also look at some of the Commander cards because they're going to really, like Atraxa and Kalia and so on, because those ones, yes, they could see a print again, but they're probably not going to be in Commander Legends, and their price points are going to come down. You have a non-foil variant now in the marketplace. Not nearly as sought after, because Commander, you want your one Commander card to be more premium. The premium versions are still going to hold. I see it's a good time if you're looking just to get the Commander card to go grab it. Now let's talk a little bit, because I don't want this video to be crazy long, let's talk a little bit around the overall set, where I see it netting out. As I said, right now we're in a bit of a weird state, because yes, I think a lot of prices are way lower than other variants in the market, and I would certainly look and pick up the cards, some of the few I suggest. I'm going to go through a few other examples that I'm looking at. But the overall side, I don't see the value plummeting off a cliff, at least not until the stuff has shipped. A lot of stores have had delayed shipping, delayed allocation. It's going to take probably 2 to 4 weeks at least before we see the set stabilize a little more. And I would even say it could take up to 2 months, if not 3 months, if Wizards has a second run coming that would allow for the set to see bottom. And it could take even, I know some people would say it would probably take 6 to 12 months for actual market saturation. Don't plan that way. Don't expect, especially if you're looking for staples that are very hard to get a hold of in general because of their price point, don't say, hey, I'm going to wait 6 months until they flatten out and go down. Because yes, for UMA, we did see that for some cards, but a whole lot of cards did not go down. They went back up. And you do not want to be caught where a card that you could have gotten for 50% less in less than 6 months is back up, if not higher. Cavern of Souls, good example. That card dropped to like $35-40 and then went up to $70-80 and hasn't moved in, I don't know, it was like 3 months. It was very short time frame. So if you're looking for these cards, you're trading for these cards, you want these cards, aim to get them when they're cheap, low. Don't put the money into sealed boxes if you want the cards to play. Don't buy sealed boxes if you want cards to play. Take the same $270, $300, whatever you're gonna, $350, whatever you thought you might put into a box, buy the singles, and I would suggest doing it within the next 2 to 4 weeks. I would say even sooner for some of the cards. Like maybe you could wait a little bit on the box toppers, maybe, but a lot of the other cards, you're gonna see their lowest point hit pretty soon, especially if it's a multi-format staple. So a few examples. Exploration. This card is, yes, it hasn't crashed quite as far as we'd want it to. And as you can see here, release date was 8/6, 8/7, 8/8. And like UMA, you see it climb up a little bit. So if you had bought it on release day, you would have gotten it for, let's say, $16. Again, I'm exaggerating because you don't know. You have to look at the actual sellers and what they were selling on the day of and what hours they were selling. It's too much for me right now. But you can see that there was a jump up. And this is normal for a lot of a multi-format staples. This card is fantastic in Commander. It does see play in other formats as well. So just keep in mind that this $20 price tag, the card was $40 to $50 before this reprint. It only had 2 other printings, and from a foiling perspective, the new box topper is stunning. And the price range is not that far. This is 20 bucks. I think the foil box topper is like 40, 45. So you're talking about not a huge gap, only a 2x gap on a full art, alternate art, stunning foil. So just keep that in mind that this is a band you're working with. This card I don't see dropping off a cliff, even though it's at rare. Even if you have more allocation coming, this card's probably going to stay between $15 and $30. So I would look to get them between 15 and 20 if you can. Scarab God's another one. This card was just limited supply. It does see a lot of play though. This card I could see, of course, as I mentioned, you have the bottom out effect upon release date. It did go back up. It could go flatten and or a little bit down depending on how much allocation is opened up in the next 2 to 4 weeks, because it is a little bit different than UMA. Land cycle. All the lands are actually going to be pretty flat, so I expect this is going to be a $5 to $10 compression, where if you can pick them up anywhere between $5 and $10, that's quite reasonable. They're good cards for Commander. That's the kind of price point I'm looking into. I would suggest if you're a Commander player and you don't have already a cycle of these, try to pick up one of each, at least just to have them. They're very, very good and undervalued in the format. The kind of card that you might see turn around in a couple years when you yourself may realize, hey, I don't want to use them or whatever, and they're the kind of card that could easily be a $10 to $20 card. Not that they would all of them be, but if you have diversification across them, you might find yourself in a good place. Imperial Recruiter, second print outside of the Portal 3 Kingdom. If you can get in between 20 and 25, I think that's quite reasonable. The card, I think, went up to between 30 and 40 for a while after it was printed in Eternal Masters. I think it was Eternal Masters. So this is the kind of card that my floor is looking at about $20. I'm trying to get it, and I would look in that range. I already mentioned about Skitterix, 15, 20 bucks, I think is quite reasonable for this card. I don't see it collapsing below 15. And I think if it does, a lot of people are just going to buy up because they're not going to see this print again for a while. Unless, even if they return to Phyrexia and they make the Commander decks have poison, I don't think they would just shoehorn him in. He'll be a little expensive for that price point. Toxic Deluge, this card is awesome. I love this card. This is the kind of card that, because of limited supply but huge demand, multi-format, this is the kind of card that is not, right now it's about 15 to 20 bucks. As you can see, again, you have this release day effect, so to speak, but then it shoots right back up to about 20. If you can get this card for 15, 20 bucks, I think that's quite reasonable. The card was 30 plus and pushing it. In fact, I'm trying to get the alternate art because that's not so crazy. It's like $30 to $40 for the box topper. And that, very unique art, very awesome art in my opinion. And I'm looking to get mine. I think this is the kind of card that I would suggest picking up, at least to have if you play Cube, Commander, Legacy. This card is fantastic, so look to grab it if you can. Force of Will. This is an example of a card that is not going to tank no matter what the allocation is, because, and I kind of have, I don't know, I guess it's a conspiracy theory, but I think Force of Will, Jace the Mind Sculptor, the kind of cards that have been printed before and are the sellers of the set, I want to think the distribution on them, just the way that they're printed, there's going to be fewer of them out there. And I'm completely speculating there. I have no proof of that at all. Technically, they're not supposed to be weighted in terms of which cards get printed where, but I've seen a huge number of openings of this product online, and so far, Forces and Jaces are fewer than quite a few other Mythics. And it makes sense. Like, they're the base of the product. If you overprint them at an equal rate, you may end up destroying their value in the market, or at least hurting it significantly in the short term. So don't expect to see these cards tank. That said, if you can get Forces between $80 and $100, which is what I was seeing them on in the eBay area, 80 to 100, if you can grab them and you want to, this is the last time they're printing this Therese Nielsen art, at least as of now, which makes it pseudo-reserve list artwork, and I personally love this artwork a lot. If you want to get these, now's the time to get them. Force of Wills are never going to just tank off the market. They're not going to mass print this card. If you're looking to get it, especially with this artwork, get in at the floor between 80 and 100. It's been 120 plus for a long time. That's what I would suggest doing. And same thing with Jace. Jace, I'm actually trying to get the full art versions were under $100. So I'm looking to get one of those for Commander and Cube play, of course. But I would suggest looking at Jace pretty closely, because I don't see his floor being 50 and below the way it was when he was still banned in Modern. I think there's enough price memory. If Tarmogoyf could be a $40 plus card when it sees almost no play, Jace is not going to drop below 50. There's not a chance. And in fact, I'd be shocked if he drops below, well, right now he's hovering in the 60s. This is probably his floor, maybe in the mid-high 50s. If you're lucky, you can get him. But now's the time. If you want Jace, if you haven't got a Jace, don't expect him to be a $30, $40 card. Not going to happen. There's no way they're going to put him in the next set for Commander Legends. I don't think there's a chance. This is the time to pick him up if you want him, and probably won't see another print for another year or two. Manicrypt. This card's been printed twice this year. Yes, it wasn't in mass wide produced products, but it's really pressed the price down. If you're looking to get your copy, this card was $2 to $250 for quite a while, and no matter how many times they print it, it doesn't seem to drop. I remember Eternal Masters came out, this was a $60 to $80 card you could get it for, maybe even a little less, although I got mine between that range. If you're looking to play with Manicrypt, just get it at this point, would be my suggestion. They could print it again. I bet they're already concerned about how much its price is falling off, and it's going to take it probably 6 to 12 months to recover back to the 150 range, let's say. I don't see it going back to $250 unless they don't print it for a year or two. So if I would expect to see this card probably once a year print, as long as it's $100 plus. Just because Wizards will try to keep this price point manageable, and this card is such a staple. Unless it gets banned or something happens to it, CDH Rising, this is a card to keep an eye on. If you don't have one already, this is the time to be looking to trade or sell into one, or buy one if you can, in that range. $80 to $100, also like Force of Will, is pretty reasonable. In fact, even a little over 100, I would say, could be reasonable. Swords. All the swords in general are going to probably take a price hit. If you're looking for the swords, you want the swords, you want a set of them, whatever, now's the time, especially if the base versions, they're going to be the cheapest they're going to be for a while. And I don't see Wizards mass producing these either. They're not the kind of card they throw in a commander deck. That said, Sword of Feast and Famine is the premier card for commander players to think about. This is the premier sword, which means that if you're looking for a sword, this is the time to look at it. Now you'll notice here that price has fluctuated between 30 and 50 and 40, and it's basically $30 to $50, but it's really around $50. The card was basically $50 to $60, if not higher, before the set. This is not the kind of card that's going to fall off. You're basically going to see in the next couple weeks, if you're lucky, this card will stay flat at the 40 to 50 range. That's the area I'd look at to buy in. If you can find one for around 40, 35, 40, definitely pick up if you're planning to play with it, or even to hold it. I'm not really of the opinion that you should hold these sort of cards that Wizards will try to print again whenever they get the chance. Since they can't print it every product, they're going to try to print the premier cards, the ones that continuously go up in value. They're going to try to print those again. So if you can get these between, as I said, between $35 and $50, and you really want to play, grab one, because this is the kind of card that could go up to $100, could seriously be a $100 card in the next year and a half if it doesn't see print again. Cards like Doubling Season and Cyclonic Rift and Austere Command, these are all commander staples that see wide play, have wide supply, have had multiple print runs, and they're still kicking. These are not the cards that are going to tank off the cliff, but this is going to be the lowest that they are until their next print run. So if you're looking for these cards for play purposes, pick them up. Otherwise, I wouldn't pick them up to sit on them, because they're the kind of card that Wizards could easily print in the next 6 to 12 months again. As I mentioned about Blightsteel and Skitterix, those are cards they probably won't print, at least for the next couple of years, so I would grab those. Cards like Dark Confidant and Mana Echoes and, not Skitterix, and Darksteel Forge and Arkham Dagsum and Send Triplets and Vexing Shusher, just giving you a range of cards here, and even Karn Liberated, I would say. These are the kind of cards that have seen multiple print runs. They're not quite as popular as they have been, or if they are popular, their demand was primarily due to having one printing or very, very low supply from 1 or 2 print runs. And now they're going to have a lot more supply in market. So these are probably going to come to a floor. I wouldn't say it's today the absolute floor. Maybe in the next 3 to 6 months, you'll see the floor, but it's not going to be a huge drop off, and they're already pretty far down. So if you're looking to pick them up for play purposes, I wouldn't wait too long, but keep an eye on them. These are the kind of cards that you could see in 6 to 12 months where they're not going to be tanked, but they could easily be in the, maybe 30% value to 50% lower than what they were before Double Masters was printed. So keep an eye on these. The last one I mentioned is Obligatory. This is a weird card. I have no idea what's going to happen with this one, because the original was so expensive and so restricted just in terms of how many were in the world that I don't know what's going to happen now that they have this at uncommon in a set like this. It's going to move. There's going to be a lot of them. It's going to probably be like Lightning Greaves in that it's very good. It's very good in Commander. It's the Pauper premier staple card, one of the premier staple cards in that format. This card is not going to be $4 to $5. It's going to be like Lightning Greaves. It's going to be $4 to $5 as long as it's in print for the next month or two, and then it's going to climb. And I could see it being a $10 to $15 card easily within 6 months. So this is the kind of card that I would pick up as people are mass opening and dumping, and people who don't play the formats where Obligate is a value are going to probably just sell off because, wow, this card is $4 or $5. I'm going to move it and get onto other stuff. Pick them up if you can. I don't think I'm going to go for foil, even though that's probably the best place to be in terms of if you want return on investment, if you're trying to invest in it. This card is printed in Commander Legends as a double tap just to keep the price down for a while. But if you can get in the $3 to $5 range, I don't see it collapsing way below that, at least not for the longer term. So I just went through a ton of the cards from the set. I gave you my general thoughts about them. This is how I think about this stuff. And if you're thinking about where do I put my money, at the end of the day, buy product if you plan to use it. If you plan to draft with it, play with it, enjoy it, fine, go for it. If you want cards to play with, do not put your money into sealed. Do not buy boxes. I can't say this enough. Do not buy boxes if you want cards to play with. If you want cards to play with, go buy the singles. Now's the time for quite a few of them. And for the ones that you are willing to wait a little bit on, you might be surprised. They might actually climb back up and you won't be able to get them for the price range. So be careful for multi-format staples. The ones you're most likely to see over time go down are Commander cards that had low supply due to print run, not the highest demand. And those ones will probably over time go down some more. I think that's enough for now, but I hope this was helpful to you guys. This is my thought process, how I think about it. I am not a financial expert by any means in any shape or form, but I'm hoping that you guys can see what I'm tracking here and take advantage of it in your own lives. Let me know what you think about this down below, anything you're looking at. Tap the like button on your way down. And as always, Mike from Roxbox 90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.